0 viewers. Okay. So, welcome to Average Joe's podcast. I am Zigma Sabloni in Chicago right now. It's a heat wave. Jeff?
I'm frozen.
You're still going.
Okay, sorry, I was frozen the whole
I
time.
can hear you.
I'm Jeff Starr, captain of Ohio State, currently in Chicago, Illinois.
Nice. I'm in Lincoln Park. Where are you?
Skokie.
Oh, okay.
Not really.
A
Chicago.
larger neighborhood. It's okay. So we're talking about a bunch of rulebook and policy proposals for the 2016/2017 season. This is the third episode. A privilege to have Jeff Starr here. He is a cool guy. Jeff, why don't you tell us about your proposal that went through the captain's meeting?
Oh, it's pretty simple. I just want to lose from 15 on the court and 20 on your roster to 12 on the court and 15, 16 on the roster. The number doesn't matter. Quickly lowering the numbers just makes the game. Well, I guess we'll just delve into it. It will make the game easier to balance. It's hard to make rules that work both for a 15-on-15 game as well as when the game drops down to a 5-on-5, 3-on-3 scenario. And I think a couple of examples, first of all, is the shot clock. Right now, it's all based on the LAZ. You got to get that one ball in every 15 or 10 seconds into the LAZ.
Mm-hmm.
The LAZ is extremely subjective. I ref a lot of games, and just playing what the game is, my LAZ completely changes. If it's DePaul and I don't know, Baldwin,
Yeah, a little bit stringent.
Sorry, my internet's not great.
It's okay. It's okay.
But yeah, so if I'm reffing a game between two teams who don't really go after stall ball and trying to force balls over, if a ball is thrown with intent, then I'm gonna go over. But if it's Grand Valley CMU, it's got to be a good throw. Otherwise, it can be.
Yeah, and that definitely comes into play a lot. We talked about that in a past video of like the kind of intent and the shot clock timekeepers, or the referee's decision and discretion to kind of give that, to tighten it up. And I guess that's the spirit behind the rule. And you can generally tell when people are trying to milk the clock, and it's okay. But what can we do to nix that advantage or nix that play? Because that's a major strategy that's just not fair to the player in general. It's just you go either way. Anybody that's for that rule will argue it speeds up the game or certain things like that. But I don't think it's a player thing. It was an adaptation way back in the day just to discourage stall ball like that. But other stuff has came around. Yeah,
and I don't. Still suggested the burden ball rule.
We haven't discussed it yet, but
sorry, I just feel like we tried it at May Day, the size of the game, and it was pretty hard to ref. By the time you could count how many balls, it had already been long. I just can foresee teams will just one player, you're just a single ball, and then you're not going to be able to make 5-6 throws.
Yeah,
to be able to get the balls over, and I think that's because we have so many people.
Yeah, we were doing kind of two versions of the burden ball just at May Day, and it was an interesting experiment because the current captainship, like Nico and Tyler from DePaul, they like the burden rule. They're big fans of elite rules for that style of gameplay. And the reason why they wanted to bring burden rule in, it was just to kind of see how it would work. And we were doing two different versions because they didn't decide on which one it was. So either you had to release the burden initially, so like you just had to do one throw, and then maybe another court was doing you had to give up the majority, which was tough when like you had one person. So the burden clock was counting down to 10 or something, and then they would throw one ball, and then the ref would keep counting and say, "Gotta keep throwing, gotta get the majority out." Because we play with an odd number of balls, I think we put it as 7. So you had to give up. The other team had to have 4 balls for the burden to be released. It was 2 different weird rules that I don't know. And we need more people to figure it out. I don't think it was a numbers problem though. At least for.
I mean, it depends on how we want to define that rule, but I guess it's not what the conversation we're having right now.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Another one of the big reasons is it's just flat out would be easier to officiate with less people on the court. There's less balls flying around. There's less people lying about blocking balls that they didn't.
Yeah, I think the hardest part about reffing our current game is the opening rush when balls are live and there's 15 people on the court.
Yeah, you just like, I hope everyone's honest because I'll catch a third of it.
Yeah.
Especially one of those rushes that just, 20 balls end up flying and you're like, I don't know who's out. I saw 4 people get hit, but I don't know numbers at this point.
At that point, if I have a 4-man crew and I'm lucky to have a 4-man crew, I tell people, don't worry about counting balls on the initial rush. Like, give it like 15 seconds because just watch whatever happens. No, it's strange. You talk about balance between the 15-player versus, like the 6v6 player scenario, or just lower numbers in general. How do you think this rule is really going to keep that? Some of the key rules that are in the current rule book that will benefit from this. Shot clock?
Shot clock, definitely. It's just,
I think stamina, like
games last so long,
which kind of ties into how the shot clock, but it'll be less. I'd love to get it down to a 40-minute clock instead of 60 minutes.
Yes,
or 50 minutes. But,
also, I believe doing this, we could standardize to a 10-second shot clock, and if we do that, 10 seconds right now from people counting, I feel like is a real 15. So
yeah. I yell at people when they don't have correct timing because it's in the rule book for a long time.
We could even potentially use like a basketball counter, whatever the thing is called, and just have a guy who clicks a button every time they make a throw and it resets it to 15. And if that buzzer goes off, it goes off.
We could do that now.
Yeah, but the thing is when it switches from 15 to 10 seconds, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah. It'd be good enough. I don't know. It's a weird concept. I was gonna say something. Go ahead. Something.
Another thing is, obviously, it'd be easier to start a team. Our minimum would only be like 8 guys, I would assume.
I think we should. If we're gonna do down the minimum, we should keep it at 10.
I mean, no matter what, if you're bringing 10 into a 12, it's better than a 10 into a 15.
Yeah.
Because, OU, I'm surprised they kept showing up this year. They kept showing up with 10 guys, 12 guys to a lot of the tournaments that we went to. And, no offense, but they got smacked by a lot of good teams. And they just kept coming out and kept playing.
Yeah, and that is like a textbook example of like the old DePaul, like, doesn't matter, we're going to play anyway. And, play. And I'm sure I saw a mimic. It's different because it's an Ohio team versus a Chicago team. And it's totally different mindset. But I still have like little things that they were coming out just to play dodgeball and to get their program known more than, to even get a point. Like I know there was a dry spell for DePaul for the longest time where we didn't even get a point for 2 years or something. And then when we got 1 point, like we rushed the court. I think that was the MSU invite. That was when McJesus came on the team because he was really good. I mean, DePaul's really good at not getting out. They kind of stick around because I don't know. That's just how we play.
Yeah. Do you have something?
No, I was just you're going back to onboarding new teams with a smaller rule set. I think it's really strong. I think it's really good for our recruitment, and I think that's a major push, a major big point that we want to stress for this rule is the potential to get more teams in because it's just easier.
Yeah. Also, my idea was these larger, more established teams would be more incentivized to make JV teams. So, first of all, they are able to bring more people out to play. Second, their JV teams could, in theory, play new teams and have a closer matchup. Because there is no way a new team who knows anything about the league is showing up to any tournament in Michigan, driving 4 or 5 hours to just get, lose horribly over and over. But, if you knew you're facing GV's JV team, you have a chance. I mean, you're playing guys who probably are all freshmen too. It's new to them.
Yeah, so I was trying to think about how we could just structure this rule for JV teams. Because right now we have a JV ranking system. I just never really updated anyways, but it's like in there. Like I track all the JV ranking teams going back to the first JV team playing. So every time they play against somebody, even if it's a varsity or a versus junior varsity, then it's tracked. And I don't know if we did this, we would have an actual JV program. All right, so Colin, you're going to introduce yourself, and I'll splice it in later. But just your name and where you're from, and
that's cool. I gotcha. My name's Colin. I'm originally out of Bowling Green, but I'm the new captain at UK. I like long walks on the beach and playing Pokemon Go. So.
Okay, so thanks. I'll splice you in, so you just won't be talking for the first 10 minutes.
Thanks. I was in the wrong group chat. I guess I was in the last one.
I guess so. I don't know. So we just went over, to recap, we went over roster sizes and how it would be easier to field a new team based on smaller roster sizes.
You're talking about the 12v12?
Jeff Starr's 12v12.
That's the only time I've ever thought it was a good idea. Like, Felix's breakdown, like, I've normally never supported it, but, like, his last breakdown that he put up made a lot of sense.
Yeah, Felix put up notes that Jeff and the executive board, he put in the thread. He did a really nice breakdown, and he couldn't make it to the meeting, but these are some great things that we want to go through. So do we want to go through some of the points now?
See.
Colin, why don't you start on something?
Okay.
Sure, let me pull this up. Well, he's wanted to do the 12v12 for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, I've normally not supported it because I'm not a big fan of change. But his first point is reducing the playing field to 12v12 with a cap at 15 and 16 will allow for more competitive teams. Most teams only have a solid 7 players, a decent 5, and 3 warm bodies / liabilities. Very few programs have a stacked 15. By only having our best 12 players on the court, the games will be more competitive. I can tell you from 3 years personal experience, and you guys have been in the league longer than I have, we've always had 1 or 2 spots that we just threw somebody in, like the weekend before Nationals. just looking for somebody. Now that wasn't the case this year, but the 2 years before it was like that.
Yeah, I kind of reflect his breakdown. It's like he says seven good players, 5 okay players, and like 3 bodies.
Right. And
I
Jeff,
think it's like 5-5-5, but that's I guess more my thing. What do you think
Sure.
is for OSU at least this year?
I would say this year we had a very strong squad. Our top 10, 12 were very good, but still at the end we had 1, 2, or 3 players, and when we got to those spots, I just we were trying to think of how we pick this last person. We ended up just coming up with who's not going to throw a catch.
Yeah.
If something goes bad,
it's true.
And that's how we picked it.
Who would fuck up last?
I mean, if you get hit, you're just out. But if you throw a catch, Ken Bailey comes back in. That's gonna piss me off.
So the basic point behind this one point is
Jeffy angry.
So the basic point behind this this 1 point is if you're gonna knock down players off that active roster, people on the court at 1 point, it's gonna be more competitive because you won't have just people sitting there or throwing catches or stuff like that. So that's a good point. I think it's even a little bit easier for a team who is not good to match a team that is bringing in a strong 7 people.
Yeah.
Because if you're a new team, you probably have 2 or 3 people that are good, but you can only work together so much until you have that team chemistry for your first year or second year team.
Sure.
So, second point, he also brings up JV teams. We just talked about it. We'll touch on it. So, basically, you have 12 starters and like 3 or 4 bench players for that 12v12, and then roster of like 16 or 15, whatever we decide. It's really easy right now to add a JV team to that 12-man roster, because that's almost what we're bringing now to regular tournaments. We're bringing 20 people, or at least some teams have possibility, and the teams that are bringing those 20 people are the teams that are going to be able to field a JV team. So I don't think it would change that much, other than players will just be stuck on JV and they have to prove themselves for the varsity team, which will increase in competitiveness. What do you think? What's a rambling reason?
No, you're right. I thought JV was a good idea. We just never had, when we go to like tournaments at WKU, like I think this year we had our first JV game. That's my first one in 3 years. So I would like to see it more. I mean, I want to see as many people play as possible, but I still want to have, really good varsity games. So if you can have competitive JV games, those will lead to a better upswing in the whole skill level.
I think it'll be funner for those JV teams.
They will be
being able to play, and also, they'll be able to play in general. So like we always talk about more dodgeball over less dodgeball. If we have varsity games that are shorter time, 40 minutes or so, we can fit more games in per day. We could also get JV teams to actually play. The biggest problem right now of them playing is you have to first bring a team and then also fit them in the schedule. So sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Next point on Felix's is reduced travel costs, which makes sense because you're bringing less people. It really trademarks in for that varsity team is a reduction in amount of vehicles you have to bring, less hotel rooms you have to stay in.
Yeah.
But then you wouldn't be bringing a JV team.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a trade-off. So if you bring a JV team, it's part of the option.
Yeah, you would definitely, if you are going to bring a JV team, you definitely need to talk to whoever and be like, hey, are you going to have enough players there to host a JV team? Because if not, we're not going to bring them. Right.
Yeah, it's going to be...
it just takes a little more forethought.
Yeah, definitely for hosts and definitely for people on the executive board to kind of push it together, which would be a big thing of promoting this rule if it gets passed. So Next point would be we've said everything.
I mean, we didn't talk about the speed of the games.
Yeah, we talked about what me and
Oh,
did.
yeah,
We
I got
talked about these next 3 points. Do you guys want to talk about anything in particular? Maybe we could talk about some of the downfalls behind it.
Well, the criticisms I've heard, I guess. I can't remember who said it. One team brought up, I believe, at the captain's meeting that they wouldn't have enough to bring a JV team, but they would lose a couple guys on their roster.
Okay.
So they're in that sweet zone where they don't have enough for 2 teams, but having one would leave some people out.
Yeah. That's kind of UK is. We have enough players to. I mean, this Nationals is probably our best team since I've been here. That's finally when we got our numbers up to a decent level. But I don't know that we can host. I don't know that we could bring a JV team, to be honest. I mean, hopefully that'll change, but as of right now, we couldn't bring a JV team. We just don't have enough numbers. So, yeah, whoever said that.
Do you think having that smaller roster and letting people get kicked off is really a risk when you need that people to practice anyway? So, like, I know DePaul will have 15 to 15 on a practice and then bring 12 people to an event because they can't bring that many people sometimes. It ebbs and flows. But do you think that's really that having a stronger number in general prevents that? Endangers that?
Honestly, I feel like there's a lot of tournaments that we go to or we try to go to, and it's like, well, man, we can't get 15 this weekend. 20 guys, 25 guys come to practice, but there's things that are going on. So, I mean, if you go to more tournaments, then you'd be able to split that up between all the guys. Because, oh, yeah, I can go to this one, but I can't go to that one. The other guys, flip and flop.
Yeah. I think it comes back to being able to host more events because it's just cheaper. It's cheaper in manpower. It's cheaper in time, cheaper in cost, with less people, obviously. And that's like something that doesn't really scale. Like having more people doesn't scale that nicely when you're trying to bring a 20-man roster to some event, unless you get a bus, and then you have to bring 40 people. So you have to bring 2 teams. Classic.
Your 20th man isn't playing too much dodgeball anyway.
Towson, Maryland thing. You got to bring a bus to nationals because. There's many reasons behind it, but I think it's something like that.
Is Maryland gonna have a team this year?
Maryland?
Where's that?
Yeah.
Oh, Maryland.
Did they reform or is it?
Yeah, they're still a club.
They just couldn't make nationals.
They couldn't make nationals because
it was a funding issue.
It was a funding issue, and like a lot of the East Coast teams have a institutional policy that you can only travel so far. And they have to get like a special exception for the nationals, and like for instance, Towson has to rent a driver, so that's why they take a bus, and then.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's a big institutional rule, and then like we do our best as an executive board to like kind of give them as much help as possible and tell them like you have to travel in this league. But that's like kind of the East Coast thing. A lot of the universities have something like that. And maybe it's different for a smaller team, but probably not. But then again, if we launch into more teams on the East Coast and in general, because that's the most populated part of the country, at least in university specs. If you look at I mapped out a map of like all the D1 schools in the U.S. and there's a reason why we're not on the West Coast or anywhere past Nebraska. It's just way too spread out.
Nebraska's kind of ridiculous, anyways.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll publish a map soon, but it is a very sparse part of the country, and you could tell like Michigan, Ohio, the Midwest, and then like a slew of high East Coast, like northern East Coast teams. You can tell it maps out what our growth pattern, which is the way maps work, I guess.
Usually it's going east, not south.
Go Stats.
Yeah, stats. My stats. All right. So go ahead.
There was one other thing that I had heard someone said that if you had a lot of guys for the same year, teams could die out. So you graduate 8 guys in a year, and you're only bringing 12. That it would kill a team.
Yeah, that is a horrible thing that happens all the time now. Like teams never come back, and my trademark saying is never stop recruiting. Always bring new people in. If you put yourself in that situation, you're gonna be very, very hard pressed to get out of that. We've had quite a few teams drop out because of that specific reason. So
I also believe that's the problem would happen anyway.
I think it's going to happen anyway. Is it going to be more intense because of this dropping the roster? I don't think so. I don't think it's worth I don't think it is worth as a major problem as they're making it out to be. It'll be a problem, but I think it'll already be there. Any thoughts, Colin?
No, I think you're right. I don't think it'll. I mean, if you change a fundamental rule, it might change a little bit, but I don't know if it's going to be huge. Honestly, the only one reservation that I can think about this rule is just that it's always been 15.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't like change, especially because I'm a senior. Like, if this is a bad decision, I'm not going to know it was a bad decision. You know what I'm saying? Like, it won't affect me. It'll affect 3 years from now. So that's the one. I don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah. I would love, as part of my closing statement, I would love to see this as an exhibition for some of the higher tier teams, like OSU playing some Michigan teams, and some of the East Coast. Just try this out and limit your 1 or 2 points and play 12 on 12. Or 10 on 10 as an exhibition match, and we'll put it in the records as like a JV match or something, or it'll be in the records because everything's going to be in the records.
And just see how it feels.
Yeah, no, give like some exhibition stuff, because I think it's right now as a college organization, we're the only college organization in the country doing dodgeball, and we only offer 6v6. We only offer 15 on 15.
You're not supposed to talk about that.
Not supposed to cut that out. No, so we have a monopoly on that thing, and I think we should be offering some kinds of more things, essentially. Any closing statements from you guys?
I would just like to say, when I was writing this, I thought it was really ridiculous because it's just one of those things that I knew that as soon as I said it, I was going to get backlash. But the more I thought about it, it's really hard for me to think of very concrete reasons against it.
Yeah. There's been plenty of discussion on this rule, so I think it'll be, in any case, the vote will be a really good survey.
I mean, before you vote, you definitely need to break down, honestly, you need to present Felix's list to all these people, because, broken down like that, it makes sense. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just changing the rule to change the rule.
If Jess likes it, I'll add it to the rule post, because then we'll just add it to the rule post. All right. Well,
it was originally presented, and this is the last 2 cents I have. It was originally, in my perspective, it was presented as we're going to make it this way, and it was almost like a punishment to bigger teams, like to OSU and to Michigan schools, and in Kentucky now, it was a punishment to the big teams to give the little guys an advantage, and that's how I originally understood it. We want to give them an advantage, so they're going to cut our legs out from under us. But it's not. It is. It saves money. It'll speed up the games, and hopefully it'll make it more exciting. So
there's some cool points. All our rules are logical. We don't just put a rule out there. unlike like 2 catches get a person in. Even that has a logical thing.
Not a good one.
Yeah. But I guess we're all college educated people, so there we go.
No,
All right, I'm gonna cut us off.
All right.
You guys sign off first.
Oh God, if I knew how to do that.
No,
Bye,
not sign
everybody.
off. No, not sign off. Say your name and where you're at.
I guess. All right, Jeff Starr, Chicago.
Colin.
Colin, Lexington.
And I'm Zygmus Maloney in Chicago, and thank you for listening. This has been Average Joe's Podcast.